Welcome to Study with the Best, the magazine show that's all about CUNY. I'm Tina Beth Pina.
Today's show is dedicated to the world of film, and that's why we're here at the AMC Theaters in Times Square. CUNY and AMC have teamed up to screen the documentary film Underwater Dreams, and that'll be featured on today's episode, along with Hollywood veteran Joel Zwick, vintage cartoon strips, and so much more. But first, when Tom Stathes was a kid in the 90s, he used to love the cartoon Felix the Cat and things that were old. 25 years later, he's now known as the owner of one of the largest collections of old cartoons and silent films in the country.
We have around, I would say, close to 1,500 films in here, and somehow they all fit. It started when I was, I would say, maybe a toddler, a very young kid, just watching things on TV. And there were two reasons that I became interested in it. I grew up mostly around adults and older people who were showing me things that they saw when they were younger. And back in the 90s, you could go to any supermarket or drugstore and you could buy these inexpensive VHS tapes, and they would have all these old cartoons on them. There were a couple very early cartoons like Felix the Cat and other black and white and silent films that were on those inexpensive videotapes, but not many. I learned about more of them when I was reading history books, and it was very difficult to find things like that, to buy them from, videotape distributors back then. It wasn't really until I learned about actual film prints, 16mm film prints that were made 70, 80 years ago, that people used to rent and show at home, and that sort of thing, that I learned that you could find more of those films in that form. There have been other collectors and other archives that have collected material like this, but very few people who were focused just on this genre of film. There were collectors who were doing great work finding them and collecting them, but also focusing on other things as well. The difference with me is that I focused just on early animation and the silent era of film. And that's why I had such a focus and such a direct project of looking just for those films, that I was able to find so many of them. I have worked with the Library of Congress, actually consulting with them and telling them about the animation they have and recommending things for preservation, and even giving some of my material to them, some things that they don't have. There are a lot of different kinds of people who have taken interest in these films. I do public screenings, and I get a lot of people who are completely unfamiliar with these cartoons and films, and they hear about them and they just want to check it out, and they find them to be very charming and historically significant and even educational. And then there are film historians and researchers who haven't been able to see a lot of these films over the years, so they've learned about my work and they've wanted to help out and support what I'm doing. I'm not missing anything in particular, except that there are still hundreds and hundreds of things that I don't have and many other people don't have and don't know where they are. So there's always a constant search for more of these films. It never ends.
Flavio Alves came to the U.S. from Brazil seeking political asylum, which he recounts in his book, Toque de Silencio. And then he proceeded to develop a thriving career as a filmmaker.
I was pretty much forced to leave my country and come to the U.S. I wrote a book in 1997 about gays in the military. The book was pretty much my life story as a gay man in the Navy, the Brazilian Navy. I thought it was important to let people know how gays and lesbians had been treated. And little by little I thought that that book would help eventually bring other people from the shadows and be able to talk about their own stories. I was suddenly everywhere, my face was everywhere. I got a call from the government, said like they could not protect me. And I feared for my life at that moment. 2 days later, I was in the United States. Just like any other immigrant, I have to do the jobs that Americans don't want to do. I have to wash dishes, I have to clean houses. Then a year after, I was granted political asylum. And with the help of CUNY Law School, the students at CUNY Law School, those kids was just like amazing, And at that time I could barely speak English, and they helped me so much, and they embraced my case just like I haven't seen anything like that, and the sense of community that I got. I thought that I would be jumping up and down after I was granted political asylum, but I felt exactly the opposite, because I have to let it go like a huge part of myself. Everything was an accident, and it was never planned, and then I thought that I could make a difference making films, and here I am, The City College of New York MFA program is very unique in a way that you learn the real indie filmmaking process. I have done 5 films, and again, all my films are about elderly people, and it's a very tough sell because studios are looking for films that have young people, vampires, and zombies.
Hello?
The most known film that I have done so far was The Secret Friend, which got into more than almost 100 film festivals. And now I have my new one, Tom in America.
Hi, honey.
Any good finds?
Not really.
I want a different coming out story. So Tom in America is a different one because he's celebrating, with his wife, 50 years, of a relationship. All of a sudden, that secret that he holds in his entire life comes out.
Whoa, whoa. What happens now?
I don't know.
So the film is more about love and compromise than anything else. I didn't want to make a gay story. It's not a gay story. It just happened that the main character just happened to be gay. But it's about their relationship, their love. I tend to address things that, as a person, I fear the most. And getting old is one of them. I think by making films about elderly people, I think I would help the society in general to learn more about what they have to go through, and being an elderly person is not easy, and unfortunately they're invisible, they are underrepresented, We don't have films that portray them, in a positive light, like being happy, having sex or having fun, When I saw my grandmother losing her independence, losing her power, I think that was the most important, the most powerful childhood memory of my life. We have 114 people working with us in this short film, and I let them bring stuff to the table, and if it's good, let's use it. I just happen to be the guy who's gonna say action and cut, but I just feel that we are all directing this big thing. I was blessed to have the best people, from editor to producers, from City College work on my film. For me, it's just like a big family. The family that I never had in America. Just like my book in Brazil helped other people to come out, I hope that my film will shed some light on the subject. You know. My film is going to be playing in Brazil. They are trying to get me there, but I just don't know if I'm up to the task. You know. There are a lot of wounds that has to heal before I go back to my country. You know. And I'm so happy here just became a citizen. Actually, I don't feel now that I don't belong to any side, because for Brazilians, now in general, they think that I crossed the line because I embrace other culture and values. And for Americans, because I have an accent, I'm not an American enough. Can you understand me? Can you guys understand? No? Yeah, I don't know.
If you've been to the movies or watched television in the past 40 years, you're probably familiar with the work of Joel Zwick. Our Barry Mitchell visited Brooklyn College to find out how this Canarsie boy made good in Hollywood.
Joel Zwick, study with the best.
Joel Zwick, welcome back to Brooklyn College, your old alma mater.
I love it.
Big Hollywood director, and it's such a thrill to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Because I have a script I want you to read. Don't feel any pressure.
No pressure, that's so funny.
Joel Zwick has worked with the greats of stage, screen, and TV. He earned his bachelor's and master's degree in theater from Brooklyn College. His first professional gig was working both backstage and onstage at the off-Broadway political satire MacBird.
I spent a year with that show as an assistant stage manager, playing some small roles.
That led to La Mama Plaxis, the famous off-Broadway experimental theater down in the Village.
And La Mama eventually set me up as a director. And then I found myself directing theater.
Joel also taught acting at Queens College. One of his students was a friend from La Mama, Greg Antonacci. Greg landed a part on a sitcom called Busting Loose. He recommended Joel for a job as the show's director.
And my life has changed completely. Then
You didn't want to do TV. You didn't see yourself as a TV
I thought I was
guy.
a theater director. Sitcom is not unlike theater in that you're staging a little 22-minute play, or at that time I think it was a 27-minute play.
Since 1977, Joel has directed over 600 individual sitcom episodes for shows like
Full House, Step by Step, The Jamie Foxx Show, Wayans Brothers, Parenthood. Now I work for the Disney Channel and I do Shake It Up and Girl Meets World.
I am Mork from Mork, sent by my superiors to observe your primitive civilization and report back. Nanu, nanu.
You mentioned you directed Mork and Mindy.
Mork and Mindy.
So was Robin Williams difficult to direct because he was so improvisational?
He was the most gentle, sweet man I'd ever worked with. To the day he died, he used to call me Mr. Zwick, sir. And I taught him one skill that he remembered forever. I said, if you want to improvise, you go and improvise, but stay on your mark. We're using film cameras, and you're going to lose some brilliance if you decide to wander. Go have a ball. As long as you hit your mark, I have usable footage. Okay. Ladies first.
Joel stopped to chat with some Brooklyn College film students. Joseph Davis is studying screenwriting. Linda Huang, post-production.
Editing is where the movies are made.
Yes.
Our word is that first comes the script. That's the first production. Second one is shooting it. The third movie that you make, that's in editing.
Yes.
What did Tom Hanks mean to your career?
Well, you know, it goes both ways. I directed Bosom Buddies and was actually the guy who was given the job of calling Tom Hanks from his cold water apartment in New York and to let him know that he had a series on the air.
Joel and Tom actually became bosom buddies. Their kids even played together. Some years later, when Joel acquired a screenplay he wanted to produce independently, he took it to Tom's production company. They never made that movie, but...
He said, well, what a lucky, fortuitous moment. I have a script that I'm going to produce that I'd like you to direct. I went, huh? He says, sure, I'll send it to you. Sends me my big fat Greek wedding.
She found her man.
I just want to spend a little time with you.
And he found her family.
No one in my family has ever gone out with a non-Greek before.
The movie was a surprise smash. So you went from a sitcom director to a major motion picture. Were you frightened? Were you scared?
Nah, you can't be frightened. You can't be scared. I lucked out. It was all about friends. It's all about connections. And if you don't think that's the key to success, you're crazy. It's all about who you've met.
Coming attractions. Let's talk about the Brooklyn College Graduate School of Film. At Steiner Studios, are you involved in that?
I am. I'm on the advisory committee. It's going to be a film school right on a film lot. So the potential for the students to be able to get involved with, you know, with really working as PAs, production assistants and stuff like that, and seeing real shows being shot, fantastic. And at approximately 1/3 the cost of the film schools at Columbia, NYU, and some of the hotshot film schools that have existed on the East Coast, and they are not on a lot. We're at Steiner Studios.
In Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn.
The old Brooklyn Navy Yard.
The Brooklyn Navy
Yeah,
Yard.
yeah. Biggest film studio on the East Coast.
Unbelievable. Now let's get the students in and get them working, and it'll be great.
Well, they will when it opens in the fall of 2015.
That's correct.
Excellent. Joel Zwick, thank you so much. And you're watching Study with the Best.
Filmmaker Shahar Langlev wears a lot of hats: cinematographer, director, editor, and teacher, just to name a few.
I came from Israel after serving in the army for 3 years, and then I traveled the world. But before I traveled the world, I landed in New York on my way to South America, and I never got to South America. I fell in love with the city, and I decided I'm going to change the world with movies. And then I just decided to make movies and not really changing the world.
The documentary, Alive Inside, for which he was the director of photography, won the Audience Award at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival. The film follows social worker Dan Cohen as he fights against a broken healthcare system to demonstrate music's ability to combat memory loss.
We're going to do your medicine now.
Our healthcare system imagines the human to be a very complicated machine. We have medicines that can adjust the dials. Blood pressure, oh, turn that down. Blood sugar, oh, turn that down. We haven't done anything to touch the heart and soul of a patient.
We were two people going to do a segment for 5 minutes about a guy who goes to nursing homes and bring personal music to patients. We shot a 94-year-old guy who woke up in front of the cameras, and it blew us away, and we decided we're going to do a feature out of it. And 5 years later, we had the feature.
Once we put the iPod on her, she started shaking her feet. She started moving her head. It was amazing.
Music has more ability to activate more parts of the brain than any other stimulus.
Who am I? Huh? Who am I? I'm your daughter.
By exciting or awakening those pathways, we have a gateway to stimulate and reach somebody who otherwise is unreachable.
When the movie came, we were like after the experience. So for 5 years we were traveling, of course not every day, like sporadic days throughout the year. We were in nursing homes, speaking with elderly, with people who are like towards the end. And we tend to put them in the corner because they disturb. But what we discovered is what they have as people and what they can give. And that there's a lot of humanity inside, and there's a lot of life inside, and you just need to help them to reveal it and be an audience and be there.
Every human being needs stimulation from the outside, from little babies to old people.
American culture is wrong. There is actually life beyond adulthood. There's the opportunity to live and grow and become elders. The aging that we experience holds in it very important learnings and lessons.
There is no pill that does that.
Moving to fiction, Shahar talks about his first feature, A Scientist's Guide to Living and Dying, which he is currently in the process of editing.
So Scientist's Guide for Living and Dying was written by my wife and directed by me, and we both produced it. I wanted a baby, and my wife is an actress, and getting pregnant when you're an actor is a tricky thing. So she wanted to use the pregnancy to create something. So she wrote a feature film with a role for her to act as a pregnant woman. So my mom used to call me and what's up with my grandchild? Is it coming? And we were like, and I was like, Mom, we're still writing the script. And it was actually like that. We shot the film in real time, meaning we shot my wife and her pregnancy from month 3 to month 8. And because of the weird production, it took us like a year and a half of production. And our editing. And my lovely editor, who edited Alive Inside too.
And when it comes to being a teacher,
I got all of my film education from City College and Brooklyn College. And I'm an adjunct professor at City College. I teach motion production and post-production. I'm a great advocate for CUNY. And when I decided to go to CUNY, I said, I'm going to save my money, and the teachers are great there. The advice I have for filmmakers is the cliche is true, you know. If you tell a good story, people will be engaged, you know. If you shoot a beautiful movie and the story doesn't work, then it will not help you.
documentary films have the power to inspire. And CUNY's chancellor is hoping that one film, Underwater Dreams, brings the issues of undocumented students to light. The film is being screened on CUNY campuses for a range of pre-college, college transition, and college audiences across the city, including Queensborough Community College.
As you're watching this movie, I'd like you to think about these 3 questions. What challenges or problems do the students in the film face? Number 2 is, how do people in the film deal with these problems? And 3, what other solutions are there? All right, so those are the 3 questions you're going to be thinking about as you view the film.
Underwater Dreams documents high school students in Arizona who entered an underwater robotics competition against competitors from MIT and other prestigious colleges. Against all odds, these 4 undocumented students built their own robot and placed first in the contest.
Some students might relate to it. Something might hit home with them. I mean, we do have a lot of students in Queensborough from all different parts of the country. Then we have students from every background. We just hope students will appreciate the movie and think about things that they've never thought about before, and students will take something away from this.
It was very amazing how 4 immigrants decided to make a robot to actually connect it to the DREAM Act so immigrants could have more opportunity. They were very, very brave on making a robot and actually going into a competition. They're probably scared. They're like, oh, I don't have documents. I don't know if they're gonna deport me. How am I gonna stay with my parents?
It made me change my way of thinking of the undocumented people. You wanna find a solution for them also to help them. So you won't be the only one advancing, knowing that they've been raised as an American, but just because of the paper, they can't be the American you are.
The undocumented students featured in Underwater Dreams inspired political activism in their community in Arizona, raising awareness of national issues on immigration.
Oscar and the 2004 team also inspired something unexpected. The courage to deal with an issue affecting their entire community. Being undocumented.
Not being documented and being that way for such a long time really sets you back.
I think the message is that there are a lot of undocumented students, and there are a lot of students who can contribute to society. More people need to be aware of the situation. This group of undocumented immigrants in this film who created this robot, they really went on to inspire different generations of students to pursue their goals and to join clubs and to not give up on their dreams. That's how I saw it.
It will give me an opportunity, make believe in myself that I can do it, and not accepting negative stuff from people telling you you can't do it, you can't do it. If you believe in yourself, you will do it and you will make it.
The biggest takeaway, I think, is to be inspired, that you can do anything. You can come from any walk of life and just be inspired and go for your dreams and pursue what you want to pursue, and not let anything or anyone stand in your way, and just realize that your dreams are just as important as anyone else's.
That's our show for today. For more information on any of our stories, log on to our website at CUNY.TV or check out our Study with the Best Facebook page. Thanks for watching. See you at the movies.